Hey everybody. Let's see how this goes. How's that quality for you? Is that a good quality? Is that a solid quality? Should be working. Looks fine on my end. Jake helped me build my campaign. Brooker, you're not creative enough for this kind of thing. I'm kidding! Okay, it says it's not receiving very well on YouTube, but YouTube is always a liar. So, what up, kids? Let me... Alright. Let me turn this music down a little bit, because I don't know what the fuck this lady's talking about. So, this stream is for people that wanna learn about my brain, wanna learn some stuff, wanna ask some questions. You know, whether it has to do with being a DM, being a player, doesn't matter. Whatever's going on. Hello. You are Iskarl. You are the winner of last night's giveaway. That's very dope. Very cool. We'll let some people file in. I don't know how many people are going to come to these kinds of streams. Doing good, doing good. You know, because I don't usually do it on Unpop, so could just be a few people. I actually, what even is that? What even? It doesn't tell me on this. Oh, 13 right now. Was that a fried zucchini? No, it's a spinach and ricotta ravioli. Like the state of Mississippi, I hate learning. Ha. Well, you should love learning. If you're a fan of me, you should love learning. What the fuck? Why my chat know is working? I see your chat just fine. Just, I don't know, redo it. I will be taking super chat questions. It is sort of a Q&A, but at the same time, it's also sort of just me kind of like picking my own brain, and sort of taking notes. It's spinach and ricotta ravioli. I don't know what the delay is for you guys. Actually, it's less on Twitch than it is on YouTube. It's real good though. Anyway, so I don't really know what the format of this is going to be until we kind of do it a few times. But I don't know. I think it'll help me DM. I think it'll help you guys kind of figure out where my like kind of what my thought process is, and maybe that'll help you in regards to roleplay or DMing yourself or something. So it is good. It's just an Amy's Frozen thing though. It's not like super special or anything. I didn't make it myself. So I guess what we can do is let's just take questions, and I'll kind of, you know, I'll answer them, and maybe that'll lead me to somewhere. For now, if I skip over your question, I'm sorry. I assume there's not going to be a lot of people here for the first few of these, which is totally fine. So I should be able to get to pretty much everybody, and that would be the goal. So. Let me get rid of that. I also have another screen that I can share with you guys if I start writing notes. But so basically, we're going to talk about. We could talk about the whole campaign right now because I know some people are just getting into it, and I know that like, you know, there's a lot of lore that you guys don't necessarily know. Not that you need to know it. You know, as a third party necessarily, but you know, if you have any questions like that. If it's spoilery, I'm not going to answer it. If the players don't know the information, I'm not going to tell you. And, like, if there's just, like, some sort of mystery. But, like, behind-the-screen stuff, like numbers, how I do an encounter, like, how do I guide the players in directions, stuff like that. I'm totally down for that. So Schnazzy Schnazborn, question as DM, for long-term campaigns, what's the best way to decide what character gets their story told? for example, Velios in recent episodes, they dictate where they go all the time. They were on... The closest thing I did to railroading for them was at the very beginning. They were learning how to play the game, and they made a decision in self-defense. They ended up killing a person in self-defense within the city, but because they had connections with someone, and because it wasn't a crime, it was literally self-defense, and they were being assaulted, they got to do community service, and so they were told where to go for 2 or 3 sessions. Right at the very beginning. I mean, level 1 through 2. As far as, like, when I decide that someone needs a spotlight, I mean, they're pretty good at prompting on their own, you know, because they all have very specific things. Like, Avelios has the whole nest thing and the Emperor thing, and so that part of his arc has completed, and he actually has the very first end game, like, epic item in Mistral. The Hedron weapon. I guess sometimes I just put prompts in front of them. Like, they didn't have to go to the nest. They decided they wanted to go to the nest. And then I sort of just put the stuff in their way that was going to be there. I didn't, like, for instance... Before they went to the nest, I didn't know that Kasdan was a character that was going to be there. I didn't know, you know, I had some ideas about how I wanted to take care of that, but also I had written on my calendar that the dragons were going to attack around that time. So it just kind of was serendipitous in that way, because either way they were going to get news, either where they were going to be somewhere else, or they were going to get news that the dragons were attacking, and so that was going to be a thing either way. They just happened to do it at the same time, so it led to something more interesting than I think was going to happen had they not shown up during that time, because they would have had to do a lot of sneaking around if they wanted to walk around on the island with a bunch of non-Aarakocrans. It would have been fun. It would have been like an espionage type thing, a lot of politics, and it would have been a really good time in that sense. But Alex, as a player, he really likes doing damage to things, so it was pretty nice for him to be able to have an opportunity to, like, fuck up some dragon type stuff a bunch of times. And of course, you know, I don't fudge the rolls for these guys, and so far, Alenia and Avelios have both gotten the last hits on their, I guess, their arc baddies so far. So it's been really cool. I hope that answers your question. I guess I didn't really decide to tell their story. They decide their shit. So. That's the best. I guess that's the best information and I guess tip I can give you as a DM. It's not about your story. It's your world and their story is the focus. So I'm not trying to tell them about the legend of my thing, right? Ooh, there's a thing going on, and while that happens, it's about their interaction with it. So I didn't create most of the world until after they gave me their characters, and then their characters informed what was going to be. So Alex decided he wanted to play an Aarakocran, and I decided, okay, so there's Aarakocrans. Where do they live? Well, in the book it says they live on the elemental air of plane of air, but I didn't like that. Like I didn't like that they came from that that place. I guess it wasn't really. It wasn't. I don't know how to describe it. It didn't really feel like if he was apart from the material plane, that would feel right. So I put them on the material plane and had it in their lore that they used to be from there. And then I was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if they lived really high up in the clouds as well? And they were a council race. So like And based on the name he picked, Ivelios, I decided that they all had very Roman-sounding names like Caius and Quintus and stuff like that. Alenia, Lathander is the only god that I stole from anywhere. I think it's Dragonlance? I always forget where it's from. Because she had played Alenia for a little bit in another campaign, and it was very unsatisfying, and she wanted to play that character again. And so I was like, okay, well, here's what's going to happen. You let me know any characters you have in your life. So, like, I give them pieces of paper at the very beginning of the campaign. I was like, okay, tell me about where you grew up. Tell me about your favorite foods. Tell me about your friends. Tell me about what places you like to hang out. You know, why are you the class you are? So, for instance, Ivelios is a ranger turned blood hunter, when really most of the Aarakocrans are magic users and scholars and nobles and politicians and stuff. So why did he buck that trend? And so he created the character of Vel. Same thing with the professor. Hugo's like, is it cool if I play something like Doctor Who-y? And I was like, yeah, but you can't just like jump through time and stuff. So we'll work on it, and I'll create something like the Hartnell. And he had to work for it, and eventually he got... I think they were like level 7 or 8, and they finally got access to the Hartnell for the first time. And so that was cool. I don't know. And then Randy had joined later with Icilius and then Egnir, and so at that point, I just, like, the Golgari didn't exist in my game until he came in and wanted to snatch that little bit from the Ravnica book. But, yeah. So... having a session 0 with my first local group from Joachim Dalin, which is it's Carl. Starting as a player and the group works out, I'll be DMing later here. That's cool. How important is it as a DM to have a good poker face? I don't really think about it, but apparently I have a good one, and they really like that. Hey Jake, I was actually in the middle of creating my own Bard subclass. It's kind of like College of Sword, but focuses on spells that deal thunder damage. Do you think this would be good? I mean, it depends on the balance of it. Is it like College of the Storm or something? He's been my favorite NPC. Kasdan has? Yeah. I really want to be a DM, but I want to do like a horror-themed campaign. I just want to main fuck. We'll do it. Do it up. What's... oh. Lathander's Forgotten Realms? Yeah, that makes sense. So what happened in Gygax that made it blow up? Well, that's, without getting too many specifics, because the players don't even know exactly what happened. So Gygax is a huge city, and it's circular, and there are wedges like a pizza, cut out, and based on the region, like it's kind of in the center of the map. So based on what region the races are from is where the races go. So the humans are up over here, and so this is the human wedge, and then the elves were up a little bit higher, and the orcs, and then dwarves, and Aarakocran all the way at the top, and it's sort of like cardinally directs. And so all the races had their own wedge within the city, and then the architecture and stuff, so it would go from human architecture up into Elvish and Orcish and Aarakocran, and so it would sort of meld together, and it was a way to stop the wars that had been occurring, because in D&D there's lots of wars based on race and tribalism and stuff like that, and all sorts of stuff. Even the dragons were part of Gygax. Mostly dragonborn and stuff. A lot of the big dragons, like in an ancient red dragon or whatever, would they would live back in their homeland. They all had all homelands, but Gygax was a place of think New York City, where like it's a cultural hub for many different peoples, and huge, home to like 2 million people or something like that, which is a lot of fucking people for this kind of setting. And it's a bowl shape too, so if you're at the top, you can see all the way down, kind of to the center. I mean, not perfectly, but think the hills of San Francisco, but in a bowl. So you can kind of see a lot farther than you would. So there is a holiday called the Bountiful Day, which is basically their Christmas mixed with Thanksgiving. The gods Aga and Gila that are represented by the dual moons in the sky, they're called the dancing gods, like they're eternally dancing because the two moons orbit each other and orbit the planet. Although they're not directly on the moon or whatever. They're just represented by it. They're the gods of like weather and chaos and bounty and stuff. And then there's Isolfa, which is the goddess of bounty specifically. And Isolfa, and it could be bounty in anything. So it's not bounty in like just crops. It could be bounty in like maybe you have a lot of friendship, you have a lot of money, you have a lot of crop growth, you have whatever's bountiful in your life, you give thanks to Isolfa for having that. And so it's sort of Thanksgiving, sort of Christmas. And on the 800th anniversary of the council, so 800 years, they had an extra special Bountiful Day where they were going to unveil statues for the greatest council people in each race's history, the top 10 or whatever. And so there was a bunch of statues by the greatest builders and sculptors in each culture's, I guess, purview, that were unveiling these sculptures around the center of the city, which was the council chambers, and basically like where all the politics and everything happened. Think like as big as like the Star Wars prequels, whenever they do the politics scenes and there's a bunch of people sitting in these floating platforms in a big circle and they talk and stuff. It's kind of like that, only not floating platforms and spacey. And so that was going on. They played carnival games. The players did. It's where I think. They got something. Alenia still has like a fucking earring from there. It's like a teardrop earring. And they had some fun. They had some cool stuff. We played a bunch of different games based on dice and different roles. They won some stuff. They won some money. Hugo's character had a Ring of the Goat at the time, and a Ring of the Goat allows you to basically eat anything and get new sustenance out of it. Excuse me. To get sustenance out of it, like he could chew on rocks, it'd be just fine. And it would like turn to food in his mouth magically. He ended up having to do a disgusting eating contest with like an orc, and won. Basically, the DC on if you could drink like a cup of spit was halved, because while it's not texturally gross when he drinks it, it's gross to look at, and so like instead of making a 10 DC Constitution save, it was 5, then like 7, 8, 9. Anyway, he ended up winning. And a bunch of stuff happens, and then they do the unveiling ceremony where a bunch of people sit in stands that had been built around the council chamber. So they all walk down, and this is after several sessions where they were able to walk around the city, enjoy stuff. They met a character, Sig. They met several characters, and then during the ceremony, there was a tiny point of green energy above the council. And then it expanded rapidly, and they're sitting in the stands, and Alenia's father, sort of, adopted father, Alexander, was sitting in front of them, and had put his hand out, and turned around to try to look at them, then they were shielded, and they didn't know why. They do now. Toll, the god of time, seems to have saved them, because according to Toll, who, because he's the god of time, can see all possible outcomes. I guess this idea was stolen by Infinity War after the fact, because this was like 2 years ago that we did this in real life. Kind of like the Doctor Strange thing where he's like, I've seen all possible outcomes. They were the only people that had a chance to stop the hunger that was coming. They didn't even know about the hunger until like months ago in real life. And so guess that's what happened, and they show up, moved 5 years into the future, for reasons that they don't really know yet, and were saved from the blast, and the center of the city basically got destroyed. Almost 1 million people died all at the same time, but eyewitnesses, because the players were pretty up high. Eyewitnesses saw hovering in the center, being untouched by this green blast, what looked to be a human, which was Professor One, and Alenia, who looks human, for the most part, is an ASMR, but they don't know that those exist. An elf, a former player that was at the table, played a drow, and an Aarakocran. The other races blamed humans, Aarakocrans, and elves for the explosion, and war broke out. And so here we are. What part of your campaign was the hardest to flesh out? All of it's hard. Trying to think of something I agonized over. I don't know. When I get inspiration, it pretty much just hits. And then I can go. I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like it's all pretty difficult from time to time to think, like, how does this fit in this spot? But really, fake it till you make it is a really good tip. Like the split of the city might steal it. Go for it. Did you back lasers and lichens? Yes. If you could assign races and classes to your players based on their personalities, what would you make everybody? Exactly what they are right now. Everybody's first D&D character is pretty much an extension of themselves, and they all did exactly what I thought they would do in a certain way. Yeah, I mean, they're actually the same. I'm scared to be here because I'm not caught up. I'm only on episode 9. I want to avoid spoilers. I'm not going to give spoilers, Nicholas. But you should catch up because we're going to be streaming here for the foreseeable. What's the biggest surprise they have pulled on you so far, like derailed plans? I get that question a lot, and I don't have plans for them, so none. They don't derail me at all. They do things I don't expect all the time, but it's, as far as derailing my plans, they've never done that one time, because I don't have... I hate the idea of a DM having plans. Like, don't have plans. Don't tell me where to go. I don't want to be cordoned off into some section. Like, I don't want Group A pushing me this way. I don't want Group B pushing me this way. I want to respond to the stimuli you put in front of me, and based on how my character is, I may fight that head on. I may avoid that and fight another day. I may never fight that thing. I may want to go this way. Like, they could totally fuck off from any situation, and the things would happen, and they wouldn't be involved. And that's totally fine. And they can. They have a couple times gone in directions I didn't think they would go. Like, for instance, and this wasn't a plan I had. This is just something that surprised me. They had tracked down... the Necromancer was their first... his name's Crosley. The Necromancer, and you've heard them mention it in stream before. And this all takes place before stream. The Necromancer was their first, like, big arc big bad. And he had a stone that I believe... I forget what it was. It was a variation of the teleport spell. It was, and the writing on it said, you and any creature you touch, any creatures you touch, are teleported to blank. And if you did not want those, characters to be there, they will be incapacitated for 1d 4 hours or something like that. I forget what it was. It's in my notes somewhere. And I made that, that specific, like, there's like a magic stone, excuse me. I made that specifically, so that he could, like, if he needed to take a hostage, he could, and I added the incapacitated, as like a side effect, so he wouldn't have to fight immediately the necromancer. So he had this on his person, and they throw a polymorph party, which is very popular in the city they were in at the time, and they invited a bunch of the higher-ups, and Crosley was posing as one of the higher-ups, so he had to go as a political thing to try to get... basically, Crosley had been incognito, hiring the players to find these really, really expensive and potent arcane crystals called paragons. He had been hiring them, paying them 10,000 gold per paragon found, to go find these, so that he could basically use them as very intense arcane focuses to enhance his necromantic power, and things were going to happen if he was able to do that. So I guess technically they ruined his plans, but not mine, because again, it was just a series of events that if they do not intervene, these are things that are going to happen. So they find him at the polymorph party. They detect him. They figure out who he is based on some, you know, very unique detective skills, like what he likes on his food and stuff like that. It was very interesting. They did a good job. And they tried to capture him, and he used the thing, and Alenia was touching him, and so she got teleported with him to his fucking hideout and was incapacitated. And so they had to go on the hunt for fucking Alenia, and so they left immediately to go after her. And they knew where his hideout was because he had been building a tower in the center of Gygax. So they had to infiltrate Gygax in the rubble of Gygax, where at that time there was not a rebuilding effort. There was just like gangs and stuff, and basically all the normal people got pushed out by these violent factions trying to take this really important piece of, you know, I guess property. So they infiltrate Gygax with very little resistance. They did a really good job on sneaking in, and Sarah played I think a druid or a sorcerer. I can't remember. I think she was a druid, which is kind of one of her other characters. You know, it was fun, and they fought, and in that fight, Alenia's brother, Arlem, who's also an ASMR, he died. But if he died, that was going to be a trigger for a thing that Alenia got, which is her soul armor that she has now, because they were bound. And so she got that, which broke... she was in like a force containment thing, like a magical containment cell. The whole fight, Alenia was just sitting in there and unable to do anything. You know, and Sarah was playing another character, so it wasn't super frustrating for her. She was able to break out of that, and she immediately got to take a turn. She killed the fucking necromancer. It was dope. Still on episode 1? Oh man, get to episode 2. Got any tips for starting a new campaign? Don't want to have to use the old "you're in a tavern" for some reason. Are you just talking about the very first place they're in? Yeah, I mean, you don't have to start in a tavern. You can start outside the cave. You can have, you know, pick the barbarian, fighter, monk, whatever, already fighting in a pit, and have someone walk into the fighting ring, one of the adventurers, have an ad go out, and have session zeros for each of them traveling to this place to find work. Doesn't matter where it's at. Have them being beckoned by the ruler in the land, a mayor or a king or whatever. You can have them be all from the same village, if they're racially fine, or town or city or whatever. You also don't have to, you know, ask them where they're from and see if they like the idea of certain things. There's lots of ideas. You don't just where do you meet people in real life? You know, it's not always at a bar, right? It could be a grocery store. It literally could be a grocery store, and it would be just fine. For instance, how my characters met is they were taking a tour of Gygax on Bob's Tours. I mean, I have that file. Somewhere around here. D&D. Cador. Locations. Ooh, not locations. Is it the very first? Is it DM assets? Introduction. It is introduction. So I have here. I had this entire introduction written out. And so they basically, the city had a visitor center, and they were able to hang out in the visitor center for a little bit, and they took Bob's tours and stuff. That's why if you've seen the fan art, Hugo's character has a Bob's tours t-shirt. Do bad things always happen when you split the party? No, but the idea behind D&D is that typically things are weighted to assume you're all there, but like on the fly I can make that work. Or it doesn't work. It depends on the situation. Yeah, she was a druid. Ever just facepalmed at your players focusing on something that was just flavor and won't let it go? Like the infamous chair from Critical Role? No, I'm also behind a bit on Christmas saves. No. I like it when they real play. It's whatever they wanna do. I don't face they can do whatever they want to do. I've been a little disappointed that they weren't listening very well at some things that sounded pretty obvious that I've reiterated several times. For example, a player that used to be at our table, it was very clearly a door that would hurt you if you tried to touch it before you accomplished the goals. It was outside the crypt of a fucking mummy. And she decides to touch it anyway and takes 8d8 necrotic damage and almost dies immediately. Like, that just would have been it. She would have been dead. I mean, there's other stuff. But, I mean, you know, not a big deal. City called Gygax, love it. Yeah, obviously an homage to Gary Gygax, the creator, too, of Dungeons & Dragons. I have a weird idea for the start of a campaign. Basically, the characters/players have memory loss and wake up in a dungeon together, cube style, and then quest to regain what they lost. I mean, that sounds fine. That sounds fun. I mean, I don't think you're the first person to do a memory loss campaign, but yeah, it could be fun. Hi, Recoil. It's a bit tricky for background stories, but I was thinking of making players fill in a survey to get the grasp on how to build for them. Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree, Brianna. I was going to say, I would say, hand them, like, tell them, like, if you're gonna do this, I'm gonna pick your race and class and roll your character for you and hand you the sheet day one, because that would give the actual experience of not knowing where the fuck you are or what your name is, and I wouldn't put a name on there at all. And maybe have them come up with names for themselves. Don't tell them their background, but give them the skills, like the skill points that they get, but not the feature that it gives you. Like Outlander, for instance, gives you like, oh, you're really good at maps and stuff. Like, they wouldn't probably have that still. But I would, before I just give them characters, I would say, okay, pick your top 3 races in no particular order. Pick your top 3 classes in no particular order. I'm going to roll for these randomly. So just roll a d4 and omit 4s, or roll a d6 and just, 1 and 2 is option 1, etc. And then hand that to them after you roll it all. I think that would give that would be a really cool way to start the first session, and it would lead to a lot of mystery, and as they sort of learn more about themselves, make sure to reward them. My Roll20 group almost derailed a campaign by starting a feud with a harmless NPC merchant. I mean, if your campaign has rails to undo, then it's a bad one. Your campaign should be unable to be derailed because there are no rails. Like, these guys could fuck off and become business owners and be just fine, and then they would probably die in a horrible apocalypse that they didn't prevent. So, What's your opinion on campaigns based on established IPs like Lord of the Rings, Star Trek, Star Wars, Harry Potter? My opinion is, if you want to do that, that's totally fine, but you better get the fucking lore right. You better, because the fact that my lore is malleable means I can make it up as I go, right? If you want to do a Lord of the Rings, Star Trek, Star Wars, or Harry Potter, you have got to know the lore. Because you can't just make it up as you go. How do you prefer to deal with character death? Do you force them to make a new character? Force them. They choose to if they want to stay at the table, and I assume they do. It was Out of the Abyss. Oh, it's a module? Oh, modules are very railroady. That's why I don't run them. I take ideas from them. Sometimes. Like, I like the dungeons and stuff from modules, because like a dungeon is necessarily railroady in that there's only so many places you can go. But that's not like what I'm talking about. Like, I'm talking about like if they want to start a feud with a fucking merchant, they can carry out that feud for as long as they want. Just let them know that they're probably not going to level up very often. I mean, they're not going to get stronger in, you know, their combat or magic because they are yelling at some guy and opening up a shop across the street and trying to outsell them. But, you know, that could be a fun campaign. I know campaigns that turned into people just owning businesses. That's totally fun. But yeah, you should know the lore if you do that. As far as character death, I mean, right now, death is sort of an inconvenience for them because of Alenia. But if Alenia dies, they're going to have some problems. I mean, you deal with it how you deal with it. I do Mercer rules as far as Revivify... Well, not Revivify. Resurrection is concerned. Like getting the soul back into the body and stuff like that. And needing the body or part of it, if depending on how, you know, what level of spell you're using. You know, if you don't know what that is, basically there has to be... There's a DC set based on how many times they've died. I've started at 20. And then it gets lowered on successes by other characters, basically appealing to that soul, being like, hey, we need you, please come back. And that'll lower by up to 5, depending on how successful their rolls and I guess what they say. I'll sometimes behind my screen, like if they say something extremely moving or I think is important to the character that they're trying to get back, I might give them a bonus to the roll and not tell them. Like whatever it is, their success might increase the total by 2 or something. You know what I mean? Got some really great extra layers to my memory loss idea. Thanks, Drake. Yeah, no problem. I run a Star Wars 5e campaign. There's lots of researching things as I build and prepare. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it in another, unless it's like really, really, really old Republic where you can just like make it up. Would it work to have a player come up with a scenario and have someone else DM? What do you mean? I don't know what that means. Co-DMing is a thing. I wouldn't do it, though. Obviously, Hugo's your friend, so don't the professor bias your answer too much. But what do you think of players who blatantly base their characters on existing characters? Oh, yeah, I don't care as long as they do a good job. Like, for instance, if I'm making a Batman character, he's not suddenly a super genius, best detective in the world, peak human, and can fight everything. But you could make Batman out of the monk build pretty well. Like, for instance, where's it at? Let's see. 76. So if you want to make Batman, do a monk. And instead of calling it key or something, you can call it Dark Knight points or something. And literally, you don't have to change much. But instead of Way of the Four Elements or Way of the Open Palm, have Way of the Shadow. And so he moves in the shadows. He's got a lot of you know, got a lot of being real sneaky stuff, like a predator, like Batman is. and he's good at martial arts, and he can like do a bunch of stuff. Yeah, this is your Batman build, but you have to do it as if Batman is starting day one, and he knows some martial arts and is working towards that, right? Starting a new group, and we're all gonna take turns DMing one-off campaigns. Who has the most fun with DMing? I want to know who do one-off campaigns. Do you mean one-shots? Like just one session, or do you mean like short campaigns? I think it's totally fine if you guys want to find out who's the best DM and who has the most fun doing it. Yeah. Yeah. I've asked every single one of. I think Sarah's the only one. Sarah and Randy are the only ones that haven't DM'd for me. But Hugo's run a one-shot. Alex has run a one-shot with Curse of Strahd, and I think they both did very good. I think Hugo's more comfortable with it, because Alex doesn't do a lot of public speaking. But yeah. The night his parents get killed is your level 1? Yeah, I guess if child Bruce Wayne knows how to fucking roundhouse kick people, recoil you fool. Man, character death would have probably been much nicer than what you've got going on right now, though. Yesterday's episode was impressively terrifying. Thanks. No spoilers for yesterday's episode for those not there yet, but yeah, I liked it. What was it like introducing a guest player character to the campaign? It's not the first time I've done it. But you were a good player, Mon. It's a little hard depending on, like, I had to really push them to get done with the nest stuff so that you could actually play with us. And so if you weren't going to be here when you were, I may have dragged on that campaign, or that part of the campaign, another session or so. Instead of doing a 6.5-hour episode, I would have done a slower paced 2 4-hour sessions. But other than that, and you didn't really take anything from the experience, because I didn't have like anything planned. I just would have gone slower. Because again, I don't like to make plans. So I don't know. It's the only challenge is finding a believable way to make you guys work together. That's for any, even on session 1, like, why would these people work together? Everybody at the table knows in real life we should work together because we want to play this game together. But in game, the characters have to be able to, you know, role play. And so, you know, it wasn't that hard after I figured out what pressure points. You know, once you build your character, I'll fit it in there. Once I found the pressure points to put on you guys, Delric was the perfect opportunity. He had already had a backstory that, I mean, they had known for a long time that he had a shady backstory, but they didn't quite know how much, because he's an elf and he's old, and I mean, he's not super old for an elf, he's just old for them. And they didn't really ask him a lot of questions, and he's been around since fucking the second session we've ever played. So he's like a major NPC who's been an ally for a long, long time, and has always been able to be counted on. And so, yeah, that was a really good pressure point. I could have picked some other characters, but he worked the best because of your class, which was assassin, and he wasn't an assassin, but he definitely has similar skill sets. So, yeah, it was very cool. You had 15 PCs? That's too many. I wouldn't do more than 8. Hugo's more confident. When did I slip into the mirror? Hugo's... What are you talking about? Hugo's very confident when he's presenting something. It's just not like... You know, he's friends with us. It's not... Like, public is very different. How do you come up with exciting story ideas? I don't know. I mean, it just happens. They guide me. Like, you know, um, it's not hard to find interesting things and weird stuff for the professor to do because of the nature of his character. Alenia is, you know, has this celestial background, and she was kicked out of Elysium for being an Asimar, which is an imperfect angel that isn't quite right. You know, so I mean, there's plenty there. Egnir is so interesting just by being a druid and being from the Golgari, which are very political in nature, as far as like trying to push their influence on different aspects of the world. Icilius is interesting because of his backstory. He was trapped in the Shadowfell in a dungeon and lost his wife and all of his friends there, and he was there for 10 years suffering, and now he's gone again, suffering again. But he's so used to suffering at this point that it doesn't affect him in the same way. And he has PTSD, and Randy has a chart he rolls on for that kind of thing. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And Avelios is interesting in that he's got this noble background with this family that is dying and this culture that is really good at its core but has a lot of problems, like the stratification. They have a caste system, stuff like that. So I think there's lots of really interesting... I'm not suffering for inspiration because they made really interesting characters. That's pretty much it. It's just the characters. Now, as far as stuff that's not necessarily directly related to their characters, I mean, there's resources all over the place if you want writing prompts or anything, but pretty much once you start to really get into the campaign and it sort of starts building, you kind of know like what's going to be in this region, what's happening politically in this part of the world. Is there a war nearby? Are there factions? Is something just weird going to happen? Did you just see something interesting in the monster manual you want to try out? Totally fine. Would be cool to see some of the other players run a one-shot in charisma saves so we can see the player seat sometime, Jake. Any thoughts on that? Yeah, Hugo has a campaign of one-shots in the works, I guess, or kind of like in preliminary. So seeing me as a player is probably not off the table. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. If I create a world and lore and give it to someone else to DM but still play the campaign, that wouldn't work as well. If you create the world and the lore, you as the player would know things you're not supposed to know. It doesn't work. If the DM can't create the world and the lore, you should be being the DM. When you're creating NPCs and bosses, do you base them on villains you like in other media, or are they 100% original? I mean, they're not intentionally based off anyone, necessarily. Unless it's obvious, like someone like the Bird is like Batman. Who I put there specifically for Hugo. Yeah, I don't think there's much intentional derivative material in my shit, but I mean, like, an original idea is very hard to come by, so I'm sure other people have done very similar things. Do you have any background in creative writing? Like, did you ever write stories when you were younger? Yeah, I went to college for literature as my minor. And so creative writing is a thing I've kind of always done. I'm a decent writer. I don't know that I'm great or anything. I mean, I haven't written any books or, you know, anything like that. But, I don't know. I've always been like a creative, like I was a creative kid. I played a lot of like stuff like Lego was really big in my formative years. Anything with customization in a video game is something I tend to gravitate toward. Like something I can make my own. Like even sports games, I would make up like, if anyone's a sports fan here, you know how like on TV they sort of like craft narratives to try to make it more interesting. I would do that playing sports games too, and they weren't even real people that interacted with anything. And so I've always been kind of a nerd in that way. I mean, I still kind of do it. So I guess I don't know. As far as like writing and stuff, it's not. It's never been like a thing I think about or try to hone. I just sort of do it, and I'm pretty proud of some stuff I've written before. Not everything, but. How's your screenplay going? What are we talking about? Not great. Do you feel like you've learned to tune the fights to the party well? Yeah, I think so. They're very powerful because I wanted this to be an extremely... I wanted them to feel really heroic in this campaign. Because it's their first... It's a lot of people's first campaign. It's my first time DMing a campaign. It's their first time getting to a late game campaign. And I really wanted them to live in a high magic, high fantasy setting that had like a steampunk aspect to it with the professor being there. And I wanted them to learn the game and experience... I don't have any threats. Thanks, Windows antivirus. I don't even use you. So like sometimes it seems like they're not challenged. Like Alenia's never... I don't think she's ever gone unconscious in the whole campaign. Everybody else has. She's pretty hard to get down, but you know, I also am not trying to kill them, but as they get more renown, and they've been pretty under the radar so far, which is surprising. They haven't interacted with a bunch of people with a lot of pull until recently. So people haven't like prepared specifically for them in game, but that's starting to happen. So we'll see. Fights against them are going to get very interesting. Yeah. Are you ever tempted to put cameos in your game, like have two NPCs that are obviously Hugo and Jake, but within the game world, even if they're passing NPC and not important? No, not really. Just whoever feels good. Where do you get the background music for Christmas saves? Spotify. Specifically, I have playlists. I have playlists like Mysterious, so you'll hear that. Fight. What did we play recently? This was the one in the Pine Barrows. This one's the other one. That one right there. I have some tension stuff. We listened to this yesterday, I think. Yeah. Calm. Which one was that? Lost Paradise? Or Above the Clouds is Avelius's. I have mellow stuff. So, I mean, that's pretty much where it comes from. This was Alenia's. When she went through her vision quest thing. How long you been playing D&D for? As a player, probably 3 years. As a DM, since I started this. This is my first campaign. Was there a point earlier on when you felt like you might have thrown a little too much at them, or does using CR properly most avoid the issues? Oh, no. CR is like it's like if speed limit signs said you can go 30 or you can go 60. I don't know, somewhere in that range. That's pretty much what CRs are. which CR stands for challenge rating, for the record. Like for instance, let's just look at something. Let's see. In the monster manual, what do we got? Do they have by challenge rating at all? Let's see. Okay, let's just go to like some sort of big demon boy. A Baylor. Challenge rating 19. Let's see. I just look at this, and I know if Velios is capable of doing anywhere from, per round, roughly 40 to 60 damage, right? So there's 60 hit points. Because he has a head-run weapon, this is gonna go right through this resistance, right? Unless he's immune, so fire, immune to fire. Immune to the poison condition, immune to poison. I know that Hugo falls in love with a certain spell at one point. Right now it's disintegration. So he can try to do that. So that's roughly 70 hit points. He's probably going to succeed on that save. So let's call that another 35 hit points. So right now we're at 95 hit points, roughly. Then Alenia, then Egnir, and if Icilius is there, I mean, you're talking already, this guy's at half hit points if they all hit, right? So already I know that they can hit 19 pretty easily. They can hit 262 pretty easily. Now, how much damage does he do? He makes 2 attacks, 1 with a longsword, 1 with a whip, right? 1 longsword attack does 3d8, so an average of 21 damage plus 13. This doesn't kill the professor, right? In 2 hits, what is that? 34, so 68 hit points. That would knock the professor down if he hits twice. But those are both of his attacks. His round is over. So this 19, not even close. They're level 14, right? This 19 is not even close. This is for a like. They also assume that on the way, there's going to be a lot of challenges and stuff. Like D&D, the way they designed it is designed for like a really big grind, right? Where you grind through a dungeon. And now, granted, they might be through a dungeon at this point and have had several fights to where this starts to creep up a little bit. But I'm still gonna put his AC at least at 22 and his hit points at least at 500, so that they have a fun boss fight. Otherwise, they're just gonna fucking destroy this guy because I've given them more. Now I tend to because they're level 14 and because they can hit so high. 19 is like I might even keep it there and raise this to 600 if I want a nice one. Because it feels better to hit more often and do damage. Even if it's, you know, technically not that much different. It feels better too, because you only get 1 turn a round, and sometimes a round can take, you know, anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on what the fuck's going on and how many minions and stuff are there. And, like, granted, this Baylor is going to have a lot of stuff going on. He's probably going to have minions, there's probably going to be layer actions, there's probably going to be, you know, a lot of stuff happening, like lava and stuff. But if I put this in front of them, I think Alenia could kill this by herself. In fact, I know she could. It would be a much harder fight than usual. But I'm almost positive she could kill this thing. And she's not even the damage dealer in the party, right? She just has a lot of resilience. So that's what I mean. Like this challenge rating is kind of bogus at a certain point. The ambiance is always so on point. Thank you. I appreciate it. You have to use he is the doctor for when the professor goes Super Saiyan towards the end of the campaign. I don't think I'm going to, but I have some other music that I'm working on for him. What CR is it good for a level 1 party? Is CR equal to play level? See, CR at level 1... See, once you get to level, like, 4, it starts to become unbalanced, but CR for the first few levels is good. Keep in mind, though, if you have 8 1/8 challenge rating enemies against 4 level 1 players, that's going to be a much harder fight than 1 CR1 character. Does that make sense? Because of the action economy and how many things they got to hit. And because they only usually have 1 attack at that level. So consider that. Favorite fight so far? I don't know. You'd have to ask them. I'm proud of them in most fights. They tend to do a really good job. Sarah specifically does a very good job with triage healing. So what you're saying is know your PCs and what they can do. Absolutely. Like, all you got to do is, like, eyeball it and see how much damage someone can do. Like, just assume they're going to do damage, right? They can do other stuff, but assume they're going to do damage. And then, how long is a good fight? I think 5 rounds is a decent fight. 10 rounds is a fucking epic fight. So, if I want them to go 10 rounds right now, I give something 1,000 hit points. So, they're going to do roughly 100 a round. That's my guess. And that's a low guess. But assuming it has other capabilities, maybe it can heal, it can you know, do some status effects. There's other things on the field. Yeah. Like that purple worm dragon thing. Let me see if we can find my notes for that. That had a lot of hit points. They did a really good job with it, though. Where would it be? Probably the nest. Purple worm dragon. I made a stat block for it. No, that's the purple worm. That's not the same thing. Purple worm dragon? Oh, I didn't write down the hit points on here. I wrote them down on the sheet itself, physically in pencil. I think I had like 850 hit points. Something like that. Are they going, I do this now instead of my character does? Oh, they very rarely say use the third person when they talk about their characters at this point. How do you do level advancement? Session-based, story-based? So for the first 10 levels, I did experience points. And then after that, I've been doing milestone. I just wanted a bite of my ravioli. Out of curiosity, what would you consider to be a natural ending point for a campaign? Whenever the story's done. I don't know. Every campaign's different. Like whenever, like whatever threat is there that they've conquered that's probably it. Like you don't ever have to get to level 20 to finish a campaign. They could easily finish a campaign at level 10. Or 8 or 13 or whatever. When the conflict is resolved. Yeah, maybe. I mean, they could always be like, hey, we want to play out our retirement years. And I'll be like, okay. So every time there's a, I'll roll for it and see how long it is in between, like, different, you know, catastrophes that are going to happen. And if you guys want to reconvene and do that, I would probably have their skills deteriorate over time, and maybe they'd lose a level or two. Have they almost railroaded the players the players couldn't possibly railroad the story. That's their story. How do you make new shy players more comfortable? By being an ass. I mean, if you're friends with me, the odds of you being uncomfortable are pretty low. GM story plans never survive intact after the PCs are involved. The phrase GM story plans irritates me to no end. Don't have story plans. It's not your story. DMs, it's not your story. Guess whose story it is? The players. If you have plans, you're wrong. You should never have plans. You can have events that are going to happen in the world, and you can know how that's going to go if the players don't intervene. That's the best. That's as close to a plan as I've ever gotten, because it's just not my story. Like, it irritates me to no fucking end to have DMs want to tell their lore, their story, their shit. Have it there, and if the players are interested, if you've done a good job in making your world interesting, they will find this shit out. Like, and there are things in this world that the players in Charisma saves are never going to know. Like, are they ever going to know? You know, are they ever going to visit some place that has something that I know happens there? Like, giving no specific examples for spoilers, but like there are characters that they may not ever know are actually totally different than what they've preconceived. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's very frustrating to see, be part of this community and see people do it in a way that I think their players won't enjoy. At least not as much as they could, because it's not about them. Yeah, you could be a dog. I mean, I could immediately... Do you want to homebrew a dog race real quick? I'll do that. Let's do it. Where's the Tabaxi at? Volo's Guide. I have Volo's Guide right here. So let's go to Tabaxi. It'll be pretty similar to Tabaxi. Okay, where's Tabaxi? Okay, we don't have to do these personalities or anything. Just the traits at first. So I think probably let's just go with the idea that there'd probably be sub races as well. But I think for a dog race, instead of dexterity and charisma, I think you'd go strength and charisma. So let's do this. What's the name of the dog? Any class race you won't allow in a campaign? No, unless it's homebrewed and it's just really stupid. No, I don't want to do charisma too, even though I love dogs. Because that forces people to take the charisma stuff with dogs. But a dog, like a dog race would be a pretty muscular, bitey sort of thing. So, okay, doggo race. So the first thing it's going to do is +2, +1. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Age, doggo lifespans are let's say it's double what a normal dog is, so up to 32-ish years old. They mature around 1. Okay, what else we got? Alignment. Doggos are the goodest boys and girls. They are almost always chaotic good. Okay. Size. Yeah, medium. Size, medium. Okay. Speed. I'd say 30 feet. Okay. What else we got? Dark vision. I'd say, okay, so they would have dark vision. 60 feet. Colorblind. Can only see in black and white. Feline agility. Your reflexes and agility allow you to move with a burst of speed. When you move on your turn in combat, you could double your speed until the end of the turn. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again. Instead of feline agility, I would probably say man's best friend. As a bonus action, you can wait. Doggo can be such a good boy / girl. Dugo. It's Skyrim. Using the help action and moving up to 20 feet. There you go. So they can move 20 feet and use the help action for a friend. Cat's claws, climbing speed, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say, let's do a Bork. Once per short rest. Probably Bork, as an action, can make an intimidation check that sets the DC. All creatures you choose within 15 feet. Within, let's do this, a 15-foot cone become frightened for 1 minute. Save at end of each turn. Once per long rest. And then Chomp. Your bite is a natural weapon. 1d6 plus strength. Cat's talent, you have proficiency in perception and stealth. Puppy eyes, you have proficiency in persuasion. And investigation if you in scenarios involving smell. I'm gonna call this puppy eyes / schnoot. Or you could split those up if you wanted. So boop, boop, boop. This is how easy it is, by the way. I mean, I just do it. And then language, you speak right, common. Yeah, language is common. common and one of your choice. Boom. There is a doggo. Chaotic goodest. We just adopted a second dog into our family. Yeah. Sonic Bork. There you go. So there's your doggo race. That should be totally fine for any DM. I can't imagine they would not like that. Here you go. If you wanna copy and paste that, can I do that? Let's see this. Okay. There you go. You're welcome. And I would say that you could probably do any dog race, not a wolf. I would say a dog race. So a Labrador, a Poodle, a Schnauzer. Your size could go small. You could opt into that, but your speed would go down to 25. And you wouldn't get anything in exchange. It would just be your personal choice. There you go. Pretty cool. Yeah, homebrew is so easy. Look at something, use it as your lattice, and then you're good to go. You're just good to go. We named him Kazdan since he didn't respond to his old name. Want pictures? Did you name him Kazdan because of the campaign? A thick Sheba? Do it. Stealing and modifying? What do you need to modify? Moving it towards charisma? I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should move it towards charisma. Because it'll force people to the sorcerers. Whereas I think innately speaking, it just doesn't make a lot of thematic sense, I guess. But I mean, do what you want. But I mean, Constitution is not necessarily a thing, and not all dogs are super nice. You know what I mean? And so, I think a lot of people like dogs, so give them one, but they're strong. So, who's your favorite god / goddess in my campaign? Probably. I don't know. Lathander will be very interesting. That's my answer. 4 years for maturity. That's strange. They're a dog. Well, charisma could be good for a puppy paladin also. Well, sure, but he's got +1, so use... I mean, that's the stats he has. I wouldn't move it. I wouldn't move it at all. The matriarch is the best goddess. Oh, Randy. Oh, Randy. What a weirdo. All right, any more questions? You got me for another 20 minutes or so, if you want me. But you double the lifespan, so it should take a little longer to mature. I mean, if you want. I don't know. Whatever, man. Live your life. Yeah, there's no official stats for it. I just doubled the lifespan. At most you should do 2 years, but even then, like dogs, like Darwin was fully grown at like 9 months. Tiamat doesn't exist in my world. Any ideas on what the theme of your next campaign will be? Yes. Lolth doesn't exist in my campaign either. I would say, as far as the theme, it's going to be much lower magic. We're going on hard mode. For sure. It'll be a lot of fun. I think we might start at level 0 and level up to level 1. The only thing that they would have at level 0 is the hit points they would get at level 1. Yeah. Like Evelios, Evelios matured at 1 year. They only live like 25 years. What gods exist in your world? Technically, Evelios is like 2 years old. So I have a list of the gods. Where are they at? How do you balance the economy? I mean, what is the cost of like standard living? And then, like, it's in the DM's guide, for instance. Here, let me look at the DM's guide real quick. So you have a section in the DMG called, where's it at? It's not just in settlements, is it? Let's try 112 and see what happens. This is just tables. Visibility. Oh, these are encounters. Oops, that's not what I wanted. There's Master of Worlds. Maybe it's not in the DMG. Maybe it's in the player's handbook, actually. 186 might be there. There's like a whole table. Lifetime expenses. Chapter 5. Okay. So chapter 5 is wealth, 143. It's in the player's handbook, not the DMG. So there's starting wealth, and it tells you the exchange rate of all the different types of things. And there is definitely a chart on like day-to-day living expenses, lifestyle expenses. So the price per day to live as a poor person is 2 silver pieces a day. So you could assume that so it's accommodations, food and drink, and all your other necessities. So a poor person would probably make between 2 and 3 silver pieces per day. So, if it cost 1 gold to live modestly and 4 gold a day to live wealthy, or aristocratic to live in the upper, so 10 a day, so 365, so they make 3,650 gold per year. I mean, like, and that's just to live as they live. It doesn't include savings or whatever. This gives you a little bit of a, you know, an idea here. And then, I mean, like, there's stuff that costs a lot of money, and so that's how you balance your economy. So a poor person might have some coppers to their name, right? 1 mug of ale costs 4 copper, so this is extra fun money. So if it costs 2 silver a day for the necessities to be poor, a poor person probably isn't going to buy a gallon of ale. They can probably afford, you know, a mug every once in a while, or they're probably more likely to get cheese and stuff. Inns are a little bit more expensive. You know what I mean? So wine for a common pitcher is 2 silver. You know, and this is just in town. This doesn't count for anything else. So, they are going to deal with it. Do you have a book of vile darkness? I do. In fact, I have a book of empty darkness. It's over here. What gods exist in your world? That's right. Let me go to the gods. Oops. The gods. So we have Lathander, Ortis, which is the god of death, the Wanderer, Toll, the god of time. This is messed up, its format, but that's fine. Isulfa, the goddess of bounty, Zix, the god of suffering, Agangila, the god and goddesses of the elements. That's it. Which books are core for a DM in your opinion? Well, the Dungeon Master Guide, obviously, the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual. So you want all these. PHB, DMG, the MM. I also have the Volo's Guide. I mean, I have like most of them. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is really good. Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, if you want to add this kind of stuff. Xanathar's Guide to Everything really helped. This is more of a DM and PHB combo, because it gives, like, there's a lot of Dungeon Master tools and there's a lot of character options, and there's new spells and shit. It gives you a bunch of name things for a bunch of people if you want those, which I don't use this one, but has a lot of downtime activities and stuff. That you can roleplay or you don't have to. Yeah. It really helps. So I would say what you need to play the game is Dungeon Master Guide, Monster Manual, PHB. That's it. You could be very successful for a very long time with just that. After the fact, I would change it. What do you got going on? What do you got going on here? Made for you. Bump, bump, bump. There we go. Ever look at different RPG systems, mods for 5e, or systems in the works? Yeah, all the time. More mods for 5e than anything else, because it's the best system right now. Supposedly, when the Book of Vile Darkness first came out, you had to be over 18 to purchase it. It was a big deal. Do we want to homebrew any other races? I'll do it for you. Why do I find you talking about D&D so interesting, but seeing you guys play very uninteresting? Because you're wrong. You should watch the game more. I think it just really what it is when you start to understand it, it becomes more interesting. The Book of Vile Darkness. Was this 3.5? When was this? Is this the one you're talking about? If you saw the mayonnaise eating scene, you'd find it interesting. Introduction. Dun, 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 dun. Seriously, what rule set is this? Can we see the homebrew knives you made for Mon? Sure. How many dice that you got? Oh fuck, I don't know. Here, I'd have to type it out because it was only in here and on her sheet. I have it written out. So she had a +2 dagger. That did 2d4 plus dex. Oops. Poison. And then on crit, add an additional 2d4. And roll those. The other dagger was a +1 dagger. By the way, this one was the dragon tooth. +1 dagger. I forget how many charges or if it had charges. Misty Step. On hit applies Hunter's Mark. So while that dagger is lodged in somebody, you have Hunter's Mark. That's it. You play 3.5. Why? Just to adapt 3.5 to 5e. Duh.
What this is saying then is
Divine prostitute class in it though. So, I mean, just convert it. I don't know why. Homebrewing is not super hard. Like, does this have a class in it? Let me see. Let's see what you got here. Prestige classes, variant rules, evil equipment.
You don't know how the universe shines the stars.
What's a prestige class in 5e?
Galactifies the galaxies. You don't know. But that doesn't mean to say that you aren't doing it in just the same way as you're breathing without knowing how you breathe.
I guess it would just be that. A cancer mage. Yeah. Ooh, you get a sneak attack, huh? Nice. 5th is way better than 3.5. I mean, it's not even close. So if you like something from it, just convert it over. It's not super hard. What's your favorite thing you found in Waterdeep? I mean, I don't know, just like the whole thing is cool. I haven't implemented it yet. I'm saving a lot of it for the next campaign. Just the module in general is fucking really good. I'm a newer player. My friends who DM say 5.0 is garbage. Oh, it's because they're bad. That's fine. You have bad friends, and you should get new ones. Like, why would you want to have floating modifiers and shit? Like, I just don't understand. Like, why would you want to have so much math going on when you could just do the same exact stuff you're already doing? Yeah, 3, 5, and 4 E are just, they're not good systems. There's a reason that not a lot of people played 3, 5. It's very cumbersome. It's extremely fucking cumbersome. Do any of the people that work on 3, 5 still fucking work at Wizards? No, it doesn't look like it. Not a lot of them. Yeah. It's not a system conducive to fun. It's a system conducive to power gaming. Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's hipstery, gatekeepy. This is the no. Everybody that's converted to 5e has said it's better. I guarantee those 3-5 people have not played a lot of 5e. 5e is infinitely more customizable because it doesn't have so many fucking rules. Never a good thing. Never a good thing to stick with it. Like, if 6th edition comes out and it's still nice and easy to play, and it's a D20 system without floating fucking modifiers, the advantage and disadvantage system is so fucking good. I just rolled a natural 20, bitch. The advantage and disadvantage system is good. It's customizable, and even in that, like when they talk about, like in the Dungeon Master Guide, I don't know where this is at, but running the game 235. Oops. Is this what? Oh. Table rules. So all of this is changed. Like they give you variants on how to do this kind of stuff. You can customize it to any way you really want. This is how they do it, and then like, okay, you can award inspiration. You don't have to. You can totally ignore. See right here. Only players award inspiration. Players award inspiration to each other, but you know, I think they'd exploit that. So I mean, there's just lots of ways to play this game, and it's just a D20 system. So for instance, if you cast a spell that provides a buff in 3.5, it works very different to how it works in 5e or 4.0. So in 3.5 and 4, you have different things that float around that are situational. So you have to have all these numbers written out, and then when you have a certain effect happen, that number gets to be applied to your AC or FACO or whatever the fuck you're using. It gets to be applied to different abilities and hits and stuff. Whereas a spell in 5, you'll be like, okay, you have advantage on this attack, or you have resistance against this, and it's all very simplified so that the math isn't floating around your head constantly. And you can like, I homebrew items that add certain aspects that are situational. Yeah. So, I mean, it's so much easier. It's so much more complete a thought almost. It allows people to really express kind of the character they want to be, instead of in 3.5 and 4.0. You kind of have to power game, much like Pathfinder. This is the same reason I don't like Pathfinder. You have to have like a billion numbers. You have to know how to use them, and you have to really optimize, or the characters feel like trash. Whereas in 5e, you know, you could have a barbarian bard, and while it just that, you know, you can't cast spells while raging, it's still a cool concept that like it's a bard with you know, anger problems that can Hulk out sometimes. Like, that's fun. And it works just fine because the system is so simple. It allows for a lot of interpretation, so you can pull aspects out of it and just make it like, I don't know. It just makes the experience so much better for everybody. Jake, this 3-5 talk is giving me PTSD. While that is a joke, I remember literally 50% of the time at the table was looking up rules when we played 3-5. Exactly. Like, if you have to look up rules, like, you know, it just kind of goes with what feels good in 5e. Like, for instance, you can be grappled on the ground by someone, but they don't have to be on top of you. They can just have their foot on top of you. You'll be under the grappled condition. You'll have to get out from under that foot. But you can play that as, okay, so their foot's on my chest, but my hands are free, my mouth is free. I can still do certain things, and so it's just interpretation. There's no, you shouldn't get the system because it's super confusing. There's a 3-5 bard barbarian. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it makes more sense in 5. I can actually watch this live. I'm happy to have you. These are smaller streams than what I'm used to because I usually do Twitch, but yeah, it's cool. I dig. I won't tell Hugo. Thanks, though. Are there any more questions? Do we have any more questions? I'm here for a little bit longer. If you have more. About the last session specifically, or about sessions before, or about the world in general, happy to answer your questions. I think next time we'll give me another race idea next time, and we'll homebrew that as well. I have a lot of fun with those. So, yeah, but I like watching people play 5e, but it's unlikely I will switch. It's because you don't love yourself the way you deserve to be loved. What must I do for you to love me? Be a better person. Seriously, 5e, you'll have so much more fun playing 5th edition than you will playing the other editions of Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, like, they made the edition on purpose because the other editions weren't doing it well. What movie are you looking forward to seeing the most? Avengers Endgame. That's the next one. When does that come out? April. Comes out on April 26th? Jesus Christ. And then Far From Home comes out in the summertime? July 5th, yeah. Were the Watchdogs based on characters you've seen in the past, or did you just roll them up? No. They are, as far as what the inspiration is for them, I just wanted a typical D&D party that was of comparable level to the players, and I thought what would be fun and challenging for them to deal with, and also interesting to look at. So, what's your personal favorite race and class? Oh, that's really hard. I'd say my favorite character to play right now is a Triton Hexblade Warlock named Molus. Molus Vuvaxith. And here he be. Here he is. He's beautiful. He's a beautiful boy. And he does a good job. Talk to your Discord. I refuse legitimate girth. I talk to my Discord every day. You gotta join the streams to talk. Join the streams, bruh. That's where I'm at. That's where I talk. I put in the Discord on purpose to talk to you guys. I talk to y'all every fucking day, man. Think I'm just gonna sit at my computer? I cried last session because of the shit you did to Icilius's knees. Big oof. Oh, well, I'm glad I evoked some emotion. Poor Icilius. Icilius is just a suffering. Boy. Nah, mate, do it again. I don't know what that means. Ugh. I literally can't sit here and talk to Discord all day. I got stuff to do. But that's why I do the streams. So that I can invite the entirety of Discord and they can hang out. Missed the last session because I had other things going on. What happened to the needs of the man trapped in the astral plane? Watch the session? Made my Twitch just for the streams. Top tier. Just need to catch up on Christmas Day so I can catch them live. Absolutely. Is that what the Taking Out the Trash podcast is? It's not a podcast. If you've tuned in, you would know, god damn it! This is what I'm talking about. Come on. If I give you content for free, and you're like, where's my content? Well, it's fucking right there. Click the link. I give you the free stuff. Click it. I talk to him all the time. Always talking to him. My goodness gracious. Talk to the fucking Discord. Talk every day. For free. You're welcome. My life is an open fucking book for you. You have so much access to me. Take advantage of it. Craziness. Absolute craziness. So worth the watch. Icilius is back on the plus side? Kind of. He's kind of in that area. Oops, I clicked the button. I didn't mean to click a button. I don't understand. Yes. Can I finally do the thing? Hey, there he is. How long is this video? 3:57? Cool. I'm going to insert ad breaks into the new video. I have open debates on the Twitch channel. I debated Jesse Lee Peterson, for instance. There we go. Save those motherfucking changes. Now I can do an end stream. Where do I sign up for less access? You can't. You're in the game, bitch. Boom, boom. More like get trounced like a beta. That's true. But yeah, we do a lot of, I do video reviews and stuff and watch other people do stuff on the internet and make themselves look stupid because they are the dumbest. They are just the dumbest. Oh man, the playlist is all good. Oh man. Charisma saves. So fun. Such a good job everybody's been doing. Okay, I guess I have to go here. Want to animate some clips of CS? Absolutely do it. It'll go in a fan art. We'll feature them for sure. That would make That would make. I know for a fact that would really make Sarah's probably weak if you did that. How do I join your Discord? Which one do you want? The Hugo and Jake Discord? Discord.me/Hugo and Jake. Put that in your browser, and then you're there. The Charisma Saves Discord has a specific link. What was I fucking trying to do here? Add a playlist. Boom. There we go. What the fuck was the... Okay, I'll find the... Where is an invite? Instant invite. Copy. Boom. There's the Charisma Saves one. I think that should work for you. Well, I think that's the end of this stream. Tomorrow night, over on Twitch, we'll be doing Taking Out the Trash again. Totally free content at twitch.tv/actualjake. And you guys can hang out with me and watch some trash. We have a lot of fucking fun. If you like the normal content, there's no way you don't like that. Wednesday, we have another one. Thursday, we're off. Friday, we're back again. And maybe Saturday I'll start streaming, and then when I don't have prep nights. And then Sunday, of course, on this channel, right here, will be Charisma Saves, episode number 22. If you haven't caught up to Charisma Saves yet, if you need to catch up, all you have to do is go on here, right over to this playlist, watch those. Running a D&D game right now, Last Ark was an intrigue game where they had to get around complicated factional intrigue in a shattered city in the post-apocalyptic Middle East. It went to shit. How to not do that? How to not put it into shit? I have no idea. Be better at it? I don't know. You're not giving me a lot of information on how it went shit. But hold on to that question for next week when you have more information to give me as you enjoy more free internet content here at Unpopular Culture. Yeah, you guys having a good night. I'm gonna head on out of here, and who knows what we're gonna do with the rest of our night. The world is my fucking oyster. I love you deeply.